fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. I love reading the books for you guys. And happy spooky month. But
whatever did happen to me reading the books? Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to reading. Yeah, weird thing to leave behind. But yeah, we're back to reading. Hope you enjoy that picture. You see, I have something called a brainlet. And you see that picture right there is actually what's it called? It's actually just a cool little game. Or the picture right there I made is from House Flipper. But yeah. Damn it, wrong picture. I'm trying to find the page we left off on. Let's see, a chapter is 20 pages. I was on number 5. Let's see, the episode started, or number 1 was 166. Let's see. That means we'd be all the way to 200 and wait, what? Did we finish the book? And I'm just stupid? Hold on. Ah, shit, we finished the book! We finished Fetch! Ah, son of a gun. Be right back. Editing me. Put something funny on screen. I'm back. What did he put? Oh, I bet that's funny. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know we finished 1:35 a.m. I didn't know we finished the other one. Oops. Well, 1 second, please. While I 1:35 a.m. Let me just, oh, that's definitely not a 135. I mean, that is a 135, actually. That's a type of tank. But, not exactly what we're looking for. 135. Bazinga. There we go. Yeah. Alright. Now, same rules as it was. And that's why the starting of this episode is so, what's it call it? So long. Ooh, that's a big E. Every one chapter is... I put it for 20 pages last time? Really? Man, I used to read slow. One chapter is 45 or 40 pages. 20? Yeah, I think I should keep it at 20. One chapter is 20 pages. Now, this is the new upgraded one. Now, we're going to keep it at 20. I don't think my throat can do any higher than 20. And then later we can do 30 or whatever. So let's just move this down. Oh, you don't want to cooperate. I mean, that's great. You don't have to. One chapter is 20 pages. Oh, move you back down. I said move you back. Okay, fine, do this. One chapter is 20 pages. And I guess I could put up, like, what page we're on. So, let's say, like that. And then move that down there. And then put, we are on page. Sorry, there's a fly in here. We're going from page 1 to 20. To 20. I might do a 10-page break every time. Oh, you suck. One chapter is 20 pages. I forgot that's how that, works for OBS, which sucks. So then, no, not that. New image, page number. You like the little picture I made in the back, by the way? What the freak? No image. Sometimes OBS can be the death of me. Let's see, image, text. Here we are. Page 1 to 20 is the pages we are on today. And no, it's not going to be called that. Why the freak? Okay. Page number. Oh, if you're wondering what those background pictures are, that was the original. That's the Mona Lisa. And that is what I was going to make this originally today, because I made that picture today. I edited all of that today. So, yeah. Be amazed at my work. Feels like there's a spider on my back. That's because there is. I hate these things. Note to self editing me. Put a skip to this if you want to start reading. Or skip to right now. So basically, now we're gonna start reading. And I would read with my reading light, but it is nowhere to be found. Luckily for y'all, I have music to listen to while we read. Maybe. Nah, we don't need music when we read. People who watch videos about reading just want the reading, not the music. But yeah, let's read. Oh, hooray. Buzzy? I don't know. Busy, sang a loud, tinkling voice. The inane song reached like a long-handled hook into Delilah's enjoyable dream and yanked her from the blessed retreat of sleep. What the? Delilah muttered as she sat up in the middle of her rumpled flannel sheets, blinking at the sun, punching through the gaps of her lovered blinds. You make me feel so perky, the singer continued. Delilah threw a pillow in an inadequate wall that separated her apartment from one in the next door. The pillow made a satisfying thump. Then it hit a framed door, depicting a serene of beachy scene. Delilah looked at a poster with longing. It represented a few that she wished she had. But Delilah didn't have an ocean view. She had a view of dumpsters and the filthy backside of a 24-hour diner where she worked. She didn't have serenity either. She had her annoying neighbor, Mary, who continued to sing the top of her lungs. Thank you for starting my day. Who sings that about alarm clocks? Delilah snapped, groaning and rubbing her eyes. It was bad enough having a singing neighbor. It was 1,000 times worse than the singing neighbor made up their own songs and always started their day with one about an alarm clock. Weren't alarm clocks bad enough on their own? Speaking of which, Delilah looked at her clock. What? She copulated from her bed. Grabbing the little battery-powered digital clock, Delilah glared at his face. It read 6:25 a.m. What good are you? Delilah demanded, tossing the clock into a bright blue comforter. Delilah had a pathological hatred of alarm clocks. It was vestige of the 10 months she spent in her last foster home nearly 5 years before. But life in the real world required the use of them. Something Delilah was still learning to deal with, though. Now she discovered something she hated worse than an alarm clock. Alarm clocks that didn't work. Delilah's phone rang, and she picked it up, and she didn't wait for the seller to call her to speak. Talking over the sound of clattering plates and hum of voices, she said, I know, Nate, I overslept. I can be there in 30 minutes. I already called in Ray and to cover. You can take her 2 o'clock shift. Delilah sighed. She hated that shift. It was a really busy one. Actually, she hated all the shifts. She hated shifts, period. As a shift manager at the diner, she was expected to work whenever shift best fit the overall schedule, so her days varied from 6 to 2, 2 to 10, and 10 to 6. Her body clock was so messed up that she was practically sleeping while she was awake and awake while she was sleeping. She lived in a state of perpetual exhaustion. Her mind was always murky, like fog that rolled through her ears. Not only did fog dampen her ability to think clearly, it also made it difficult for her brain to interface with her senses. It seemed as soon as her vision, hearing, and taste buds were always a little off. Delilah, can I count on you to be here at 2? Nate barked on Delilah's ear. Yes, I'll be there. Nate had made a growling sound and then hung up. I love you too, Delilah said on the phone before she set it down. Delilah looked at her queen-size bed. The thick mattress and her special memory foam pillow beckoned like the languid lover, inviting her back to bed. Delilah so wanted to give in. She loved sleep. She loved just being in her bed. It was like a cocoon, an adult version of the blanket fort she would build when she was little. She would spend all day in her bed as if she could. She wished she could find one of those stay-at-home jobs and let her work in bed in her pajamas. It wouldn't be ideal for her employer because she'd rather just lounge about and sleep, but it would be better for her health. What doesn't Delilah like the coronavirus? She could set her own shifts if she worked for herself. But all her searching for such a job had found nothing but work-at-home scams. The only place that would hire her after she and Richard split up was the diner. All because she had a juvie record and had dropped out of high school for reasons she barely remembered anymore. Life sucked. Delilah looked at her useless alarm clock. No, she couldn't risk it. She had to stay awake. But how? Next door, Mary was on at least a third repeat of her stupid wake-up song. Delilah knew it would do no good to bang on the wall or go next door to ask Mary to keep it quiet. Mary wasn't cooking with all her burners. Delilah wasn't sure what was wrong with the woman. She just knew that her previous complaints of disappearing into the void that seemed to make up the mind hidden under Mary's thick gray hair. Delilah didn't want to stay in her apartment and listen to Mary. She might as well do something useful. Shuffling into her tiny pink tilted bathroom, Delilah brushed her teeth and dressed in gray sweats and a red t-shirt. She figured she might as well go for a jog. It had been the last 3 days since she had gotten exercise. Maybe that had something to do with the fog in her head. Nah, she knew that wasn't true. She tried to exercise the solution to constant exhaustion. It didn't seem to matter how much she worked out. Her body just didn't like bouncing from one schedule to another like a human hummingbird flitting about. It's just because it's winter, Delilah's best friend Harper said. When spring comes, you'll wake up just like the flowers. Delilah had doubted that, and rightfully so. Spring was here, everything was blooming, except Delilah's energy levels. But whether it would help her head or not, Delilah put on her running shoes and tucked her keys, phone, some money, driver's license, and a credit card into her running pouch, which she then hung around her neck. Leaving her little noisy apartment, Mary was still singing. Delilah stepped out of the carpeted hallway that smelled like bacon, coffee, and glue. What was with the glue? Delilah snorted and she trotted down the 3 flights of narrow, uneven steps. The super was probably fixing the wall or something. She wasn't exactly living in an upscale place. 2 sullen, sultry teens ambled through the building's lobby as Delilah reached it. They eyed her. She ignored them, stepping through the scratched gray metal door just in time to watch the sun duck behind the fluffy white clouds. It was one of those bright, breezy spring days that Harper loved and Delilah hated. If she lived in the coast or in the forest, she could appreciate the happy sun and the springy air currents, surrounded by nature and maybe some blossoming flowers. Such a day would feel right. But here in the urban conglomeration of strip malls, machine shops, car dealerships, vacant lots, and low-income housing, bright and breezy wasn't pleasant. It was jarring. A tiara would look more than suitable on a pig. Trying to ignore smells of rotting lettuce, exhaust, and rancid frying oil, Delilah propped her foot on the side of the empty flower planter in front of her gray-walled, boxy building. Maybe it would feel more like spring if the planters were growing flowers instead of rocks. Delilah stretched, then shook her head in negativity. You know better, she scolded herself, setting off in the medium-paced jog. You know better, she scolded herself, setting off in the medium-paced jog. Delilah pointed herself north, which would take her through the nearest housing area, where she could run past houses and trees instead of struggling business and cars. She needed to get out of this dark spiral she was in. She had enough therapy when she was in her teens to know that she had an obsessive personality. Once she latched onto a perceptive, there was no unlatching her. Right now, she was stuck on the idea that her life sucked. It was going to continue to suck if she didn't pick up a new idea. As her feet met the uneven sidewalk, Delilah tried to clear the fog in her brain by thinking happy thoughts. Every day I'm getting better and better, she chanted. After 10 rounds or so of this affirmation, she was starting to feel snarly. So she traded affirmation for an image of the life she wanted to be living. That made her think of the life she had been living with Richard, which just dropped her further into the negativity pit. When Richard decided she wanted to replace his dark-haired, dark-eyed missus with a blonde, blue-eyed wife, Delilah didn't have many options. She signed a nuptial agreement before marrying Richard. She had nothing going into the marriage. She had nothing in the divorce. Not nothing. She received enough to settle to get her an apartment, some second-hand furniture, and her 15-year-old tan compact sedan. She got these after she found the one place that was willing to hire her and train her. Given her stunning resume of completed half of the 12th grade, babysat, and worked in the fast food restaurant, she was lucky to get what she got. And awful hours aside, the job had been good to her. Nate had sent her to management training, and she had climbed the ladder from server to shift manager in just a few months. At 23, she was the youngest shift manager in the restaurant. See, Delilah panted, things are looking up. She clung to the tenaciously positive thought as she jogged through the rowdy old neighborhood that backed into the industrial park. The neighborhood was too run down to call pretty, but it was too filled with beautiful old maple trees and two tall, swiny poplars that swayed in the gentle wind coming up the street. All the trees were filled with a light green new growth. The tender leaves encouraged more hopeful thoughts, if only for a minute or two. She wondered if the people who lived in the area ever let the trees inspire them. Looking around, she doubted it. A few listless kids were waiting for the yellow school buses that belched diesel fumes that came chugging behind. Delilah, an old guy with a shiny bald head, mowed the yard, full of weeds, with a woman whose attitude appeared to be worse than Delilah stood in front of her porch glaring at a coffee mug. Delilah decided she had enough for the neighborhood and enough for a run. For that matter, she looped around the defunct car parts store and aimed for home. Home? If only it was home. But her apartment wasn't home. She had two homes in her life. The one she shared with her parents until they died when she was 11. Damn. The foster homes she lived in after that were nothing more than places to bide her time. Her other home was with Richard. Now she just had a place where she slept. She never got to sleep enough. Lately, it felt like life had just been one annoying sleep interpretation after another. Like the world was an alarm that kept going off and waking her from her dreams. The only place she could find a truly happy thought. Back in her apartment, Delilah did her best to ignore her mostly empty pale green walls, and she had gotten up to the oomph to repaint since she moved in. She took her shoes and put them neatly in front of the door. She crossed to her well-worn beige leather love seat and straightened the green and yellow Afghan draped over its back. Delilah didn't like the Afghan, but Harper had crocheted it for her. One day Harper had dropped by and was crushed when she didn't see the Afghan. After that, Delilah had left it out. You just have to be careful to tug the wonky bits, Harper told Delilah when she presented the gift. Given that there were many such bits, proper tucking was a challenge. Mary continued warbling next door as Delilah peeled off her sweaty t-shirt and opened the cabinet where she kept her stash of cookies. The cabinet was empty, of course. Sighing, Delilah opened her refrigerator. She knew there was a futile action because she didn't cook and therefore kept nothing in the fridge but bottled water, apple juice, and half-eaten carry-out food from the diner. One of the perks of working at the diner, she got 2 free meals every shift. That kept her pretty well fed, so all she really needed was her cookies, milk, some protein bars, and frozen dinners for the night she didn't work. The refrigerator revealed that she needed not just cookies, but milk too. Mary's voice wafted through the walls. Spring was sprung and worms have come. Yes, that's what I'm afraid of, Mary, Delilah said. She couldn't stay here. Striding into her small bathroom, Delilah took a lukewarm shower, then dressed in brown leggings and a gold and black plaid jacket. She avoided looking in the mirror as she dried her wavy shoulder-length hair. Delilah didn't wear makeup anymore. Rather than spend money on cosmetics that got her unwanted male attention, she left her face bare and put extra dollars in her savings account. Even without makeup, Delilah was pretty enough to turn heads. A modeling agency she applied to once told her she was just the large chin shy of having a classically beautiful features. 2 agencies had given her the names of plastic surgeons that told her to come back after she had a low chin and jaw work done. Delilah figured if she wasn't going to put on a makeup, why would she look in the mirror? She knew that she looked like, and lately she hasn't been keen on meeting her own gaze. She saw something there that scared her, something that made her wonder what the future held. Next door, Mary was singing at the top of her lungs about visiting Mars. You go, Mary, Delilah said, wishing Mary would go to Mars and not come back. Grabbing her purse, Delilah headed for her car. She figured that she could get to the store, get some cookies and milk, and still come back to time to take a little nap before work. After a visit to the grocery store, replenish her oatmeal cookie stash and her milk supply, Delilah left the store from the rear of the parking lot. She liked weaving her way back to the apartment on the quiet neighborhood roads instead of the congested 4 lanes that ran through the heart of the industrial and retail flat she lived in. The neighborhood was a little nicer than the one she ran through. It had bigger houses, greener lawns, and newer cars. The trade-offs of the older neighborhood had those maple and poplar trees, and this new neighborhood had runty cherry trees. She had to admit that the pink blossoms were pretty, though. Turning the corner next to the particularly flowery tree, Delilah spotted a garage sale sign. Its arrows pointed straight ahead, so on a whim, she went that way. 2 more signs directed her straight right turns, and eventually she found herself in front of 2-story Spanish-style home, looming over several card tables piled high with household merchandise. Delilah couldn't help herself. She had to stop. Just as Delilah had a thing about getting stuck in that pattern, she had a thing about garage sales. She had been hooked on them since she was a teen. One of her therapists, Allie, had a theory about it. Allie thought Delilah loved garage sales because they gave her glimpses into family life that reminded her of what normal looked like. Delilah was an obsessive garbage sale shopper. Yes, she did occasionally buy. She'd gotten all her current furniture from garage sales, mostly though. Delilah was a garage sale watcher, an archaeologist of household items and stuff, private eye. She wanted to know that people used and what they collected, what they loved, and what they didn't want to keep around anymore. It entertained her. Figuring her milk could sit in the car for 15 minutes or so, Delilah pulled her car behind the dirty red pickup. The pickup of the powder blue Cadillac were the only cars parked in the front of the house. Just 2 people wandering among the tables. One person was a heavy-set woman who seemed to intend on kitchenware, and the other was a slight young man who was browsing piles of books and records. Delilah nodded them both, and also the middle-aged woman who sat to the picnic table, who held a metal cash box, a pad of paper, and a calculator. Welcome, the woman called out. She had short, spiky brown hair, and her eyes were encircled in heavy black liner. She wore a yellow running suit, and she carried a butterscotch-colored chihuahua that was so quiet and docile, Delilah began to wonder whether it was real, and stepped up to pet it. The dog wagged its tail. This is Mumford, the woman said. Hello, Mumford. Delilah scratched Mumford behind the ears, becoming Mumford's new best friend. Strolling away from Mumford and his human, Delilah explored the intriguing piles on each table. She poked through small appliances, tools, games, puzzles, electronics, and clothes, finding a black leather jacket that intrigued her until she sniffed it and got a nose full of stale mothballs. Wondering what the next table, she found herself in the toy section. A glance at a pile of fashion dolls darkened her already precarious mood because the dolls reminded her of how impossible it was to prevent other foster kids from playing with her stuff when she was growing up. Blocks made her think of the little foster brother she'd gotten so close to in foster home number 3. She only to lose him in adoption a week before she was moved in a different home. She was getting ready to walk away from the table in search of a home decor items when her gaze landed on a different doll. With brown curly hair, big dark eyes, and a plump pink cheeks, the doll looked at almost exactly like the baby Delilah envisioned having someday with Richard. At the start of their marriage, her baby was as real to her as anything in the physical world, but she'd been sure she was going to be a mother. So sure that she named the baby before the baby was even conceived. Her name would be Emma. Intrigued, Delilah circled the table and got closer to the doll, tucked in the large wooden box full of plush toys and electronic gadgets and pretty baby face that particularly shadowed all the doll's blue hat. The hat's wide brim fringed in pink truffles looked incongruous, wedged between a game console that looked like a remote control airplane. Delilah had shifted both items to free the doll, which was about 2 feet tall. Wearing a puffy sleeve 1980s era light bright blue full skirted dress with a pink ruffled trim with a big bow around its waist, the doll was much heavier than Delilah expected her to be. When she examined the doll, Delilah realized it because the doll was electronic. Delilah had reached for the right pink tag on the instructional booklet that hung around the doll's wrist. "My name is Ella," read the big tag. "Ella is so close to Emma." Delilah felt an odd tingle slither through her body. How weird was that? The doll that looked like her long-desired baby and the name that was far too close to be a coincidence. Although it had to be a coincidence, didn't it? Delilah opened the little booklet, her eyes widened. Wow, this is a high-tech doll. According to the booklet, Ella was a helper doll, manufactured by Fazbear Entertainment. Fazbear Entertainment, Delilah whispered as she never heard of it. The booklet was a list of what Ella was designed for and listed impressive. Ella could do all sorts of things. She could keep the time and serve as an alarm clock, manage appointments, keep track of the list, take photos, read stories, sing songs, and even serve drinks. Serve drinks, Delilah shook her head. Looking around, Delilah was relieved to see that no one was paying attention to the interest in the doll. Mumford's mom was helping the young man look through at records. The heavy-set woman was busy piling china plates next to the metal cash box. No one else had shown up. Delilah kept reading. Ella, the booklet said, could test the pH levels in water, and she could also do personal assignments if you answered a program list of 200 questions. How is it possible for an old toy to be that sophisticated? Both Ella's design and her booklet suggested that her clothing matched her year of manufacture. She was not new, not even close. Did she really do all these things? Delilah turned Ella over, and she found a note pinned to Ella's dress. The note explained that the only one of Ella's functions that worked was the alarm clock. Delilah flipped Ella again, saw that Ella had a small digital clock embedded in her chest. Concentrating on following the instructions, Delilah attempted to activate the alarm clock feature by pressing the sequence of little buttons found on Ella's round belly. Delilah nearly dropped poor Ella, and the last button she pushed made Ella's eyes bolt open. She sucked in her breath and snapping sound, and her heartbeat quadrupled in a nanosecond when Ella went for a sleep to awake in an instant. Delilah held Ella out in front of her. Well, she did need an alarm clock. She checked the little white price tag stuck to the back of Ella's neck. Not so bad. Delilah could handle that. And maybe she can get the price down. Her hundreds of garage sale visits had turned her into a pretty good haggler. Delilah picked up Ella and headed toward Mumford and his mom, who were both back behind the cash box. The young man was loading a box of records into the pickup. Will you have $15? Will you shave $15 off the price? Delilah asked, since she was only one function. Woman held out a hand and bright red fingernails, turned Ella over, looked at the price, and then up at Delilah, who tried to look eager and poor at the same time. Okay, sure, I can do that. Delilah grinned. Great. As she paid, she instructed herself to notice that her day did indeed get better as she went along. It didn't suck to have a nice run, to buy more cookies, and find a very cool high-tech doll at a good price at the garage sale. Ella could make a cool conversation piece at a perch on Delilah's old oak coffee table. Harper was going to love Ella, and now Delilah was working alarm clock. She could go home, take a nap, and still have a way to make sure she's up on time for work. Yep, things are looking up. Maybe she can get off the life sucks track after all. Back in her apartment, Delilah set Ella on their nightstand under a white ginger jar lamp. Ella in her loofy dress all fluffed up and spread out around her. Looking good there, content even, actually. She looked a little pleased with herself, which was, of course, the projection because Ella didn't even aware of herself. It was Delilah who was pleased with herself. She was proud for finding a way to turn the day around. She'd gotten past her funk. That was pretty impressive. Delilah checked her watch and set Ella's clock to match the time. It was barely 11:30 a.m., so Delilah was going to be able to grab a couple hours of sleep. Setting Ella's alarm for 1:35 p.m., Delilah smoothed her sheets and blankets to lay down on top of them, pulling up the comforter to her chin, not just because it was cold in her apartment, but because it made her secure. Thankful that Mary was either asleep herself, was running out errands, or had ruined her Vulcan cards too much singing, Delilah lay back and let herself ride the currents of drowsiness into blissful unconsciousness. The fountain blasted through the loudest piece of a rocket, shattering non-starry walls. It shot upright and grabbed to her phone chest, raising herself for shutting it off so her nap wouldn't be interrupted. What? She snarled. Where the hell are you, Knight? Snarled right back. Huh? It's Delilah looked at 2:25 p.m. Oh crap, you better be here in 15 minutes or don't ever be here again. Delilah pulled the phone to her ear just in time to avoid the clap she knew was coming. Nate used an old-fashioned corded phone with a kind of metal hook for the receiver. She expressed himself via the force with to replace the phone on its hook after the call. He was pissed. Delilah ran into the bathroom, tearing off her clothes, and she went. The plastic car water on her face, running a brush through her hair. She trotted back into the bedroom, yanked on her dark blue uniform dress, and grabbed her work shoes, ugly black no-slips Nate made for employees to wear. As he laced them up, her gaze eyed on Ella. Well, you're a disappointment, she told the doll. Ella looked back at her with thick lashes. One of her curls had fallen over an eye. She almost looked mischievous. No wonder the doll was so cheap. The only thing it worked for was a clock in the middle of Ella's chest, but without the alarm function, it was good as a clock. Ella was a pretty doll, and she looked like Delilah's long-desired baby, but now she was more a reminder of Delilah's frustration than anything else. Finishing with her shoes, Delilah snatched Ella from the nightstand for a second. She marveled at the realism of Ella's baby-soft skin. When she strode into the living room, her grabbed her purse and headed out the door, jogging down the hall and the stairs. Delilah shook her head as I heard Mary belt out, I love the big bright world. Outside the sun, she'd see to the sky of the ceiling, low-hanging clouds, spitting fat raindrops. Delilah paused to hold the door open for two elderly ladies who took an excruciatingly long time to go inside. Then she tore around the side of the building, heading for the dumpsters. Green's hulking dumpsters sat like trio of trolls at the edge of the apartment's building lot. Two were open. One was closed. Well, that was definitely interesting. Close my book for the day and put it over here on my printer. What I was thinking about while I was reading is what day is this going to be posted? Well, to be brutally honest, I don't know. So let's say... I'll figure it out. Anyways, hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, and have a good rest of your day. Deeby skibby. Sorry, I get tired when I read. But anyways, skib it deep a deep beep bop. Yeah, you missed that one? I do too. Bye bye.